The Dallas Cowboys miss out on Myles Garrett. We'll tell you why that could be a huge mistake next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Landon McCool. And on today's show, we're talking about a flurry of moves that happened in the NFL over the last 24 hours, including Odell Beckham Jr. signing with the New York Giants, which we'll talk about. A.J. Brown leaving the Eagles. We'll talk about some more moves the Cowboys might be able to make. But the bombshell that happened on June 1st was the Los Angeles Rams trading for Myles Garrett, a two-time Defensive Player of the Year award winner, and somebody that we've spent a lot of time talking about on the show. And I think, Landon, you and I had a pretty good feel. We felt pretty confident that Cleveland was going to trade him at some point after they deferred his roster bonus. It just happened to go to those darn Rams in LA. Did the Cowboys miss out here?
I think that there's probably a lot of ways to attack this. And I think the quick answer is I don't know if they missed out yet, because I think the question might be, did the Cowboys even have the package to deliver what was needed to get Myles Garrett? Because if you look at what the Rams traded away, I have to imagine that the Browns weren't looking only for draft picks, right? Like,
and I believe Jay Glazer is the one that reported that the Browns did not want to trade Myles Garrett. And when the Rams initially came to them with an offer, they were pretty adamant that they were not going to do it for 2 first-round picks and additional picks. But once Jared Verse got put on the table, it changed the equation for them.
And I think let's have a little quick conversation about that real quick,
sure.
Right? Because to me, I think we need to have a conversation about the valuation of Jared Verse, because I think that Jared Verse on his own is worth a first round plus, right? I mean, we're talking about a guy who has had more pressures the last 2 seasons than Micah Parsons. I mean, he's been an extremely effective and very young, like at least in NFL years, pass rusher on the rise, and those guys don't really get traded unless for a first round plus, right? So, ostensibly, this was a 2 first round pick trade plus the extras that were added on, which was a second and a third round pick. So,
and I would even go further. I asked on Twitter on Monday night, where would Jared Verse have been selected in the 2026 NFL draft? Kind of knowing what you know now about the player. Yeah. And we got multiple people, including our guy, John Owning, who said he would be the first edge off the board. Well, coincidentally, the first edge off the board in the 2026 draft was David Bailey at number 2. So let's even say you're more conservative than that. He's a top 5 pick. It's not just 2 first-round picks. It's a top 5 pick and a 2027 first-round pick and a 2028 second-round pick and a 2029 third-round pick.
Yeah, and I think that, if the kind of fulcrum, the kind of dividing line was that they wanted a top end player in return, maybe even potentially at the position that they were trading one away. The Cowboys just don't have that to offer. I saw some people that were saying, well, you could trade Ezraku, but I don't think you're evaluating how good Jared Verse is, right?
And the gap between Jared Verse and Donovan Ezraku, and we are big Donovan Ezraku fans, so this is not a shot at him, but the gap between those players is probably worth at least a first round pick, if not more.
I mean, the gap between Jared Verse and Ezraku is greater than the gap between Jared Verse and Myles Garrett. Like that's I mean, just to be clear, like I think that's like so. Yeah, the Cowboys. I think once I saw the initial offer, I was a little upset, and then as the information kind of trickled in, and I actually sat down and thought about it a little bit more. I was like, I just don't know. I mean, look, we don't know if the Cowboys were in this. It sounds like maybe they potentially were at least kicking tires. But like there's a possibility that even if the Cowboys were in on this, they simply didn't have what the Browns were looking for in order to make this deal.
Now, you could talk yourself into saying, hey, if you would have just offered 3 first-round picks to Cleveland, 27, 28, 29, maybe that would have been so overwhelming that Cleveland would have had no choice but to take that offer. Instead, I think the hard part for me, and this is me as the fan talking, not the analyst, is the Cowboys are pretty clearly in a window, and we think it's a 2-year window that could potentially be a 3-year window, right? That maybe could extend to 2028. And a team in your conference just got a whole lot better than you just did. They were already a couple plays away from being in the Super Bowl. They've added Trent McDuffie, they've added Jalen Watson, and now they've added Myles Garrett. And we like what the Cowboys have done this offseason, but it's really hard to feel like they're just not close to that team right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, they're going all in a way that, you know, obviously the Cowboys aren't willing to or don't have the ability to, because it's not
Why
like
not? But why do you think the Cowboys are so afraid to go all in like that? Because we've heard Stephen Jones before kind of snicker like, we don't want to do what the Rams do and, could pay the price down the road.
I want to be clear that I think that we might be going too far down this road at this point. I still don't even know what the Cowboys offered here. And like, there's a very reasonable chance that the Cowboys offered a monster deal for Myles Garrett, and we're just not aware of it at this point.
Right.
And the Browns chose the Rams offer instead.
All very fair. I just think it's the fact that the Rams continue to get these kind of deals done and they're constantly reloading. And I think it just feels like the Cowboys, while again, we like what they've done this offseason, they always feel like they're a step or two behind some of the top teams in the conference.
I think the Cowboys spent a lot of resources trying to catch up to get into striking distance, and the Rams were already there. And what the Rams have done is traded a few more future assets to upgrade what they already had. I mean, that's kind of how I view the situation, is that they front loaded Jared Verse a little more, and so I understand what you're saying. You're not wrong, but I guess my point is that we feel like the Cowboys were in on Crosby. They just missed the boat on that. We don't know exactly the deal with Myles Garrett. You're right that they probably aren't all in the way that the Rams haven't been all in, but I guess the difference is maybe they view the fact that Dak Prescott isn't quite as advanced in age as Stafford is. Like, maybe they view him as having a little bit slightly longer window, and they don't necessarily want to give up more. If again, all of this is assuming that we even know that they weren't in on Myles Garrett and weren't willing to trade potentially, multiple first round picks around.
And again, I'm sure that'll come out. I guess my point is, as a fan, it just feels like the Cowboys made steps toward improving this offseason, but so did the Rams. And I feel like they just haven't closed the gap on teams like that. And that's what's so frustrating, is that there's teams every year that are more willing to go all in than what Dallas is. And that doesn't always result into a championship, right? There's no guarantee that the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl this year. Now, they are the favorite over on FanDuel right now. Their odds have actually increased to win the Super Bowl. And I just wonder, like, are we in this phase of the NFL, Landon, where you're going to have 3 or 4 teams going all in every year, and you kind of can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out? If you truly want to compete, you kind of have to know when your window is. And we think the Cowboys window is now. So why not go all in to try to maximize it? It just doesn't feel like the Cowboys have been willing to be that aggressive in the same way that like Les Snead has been with the Rams.
Yeah, and look, there's a couple. Look, I mean, that wasn't the kind of team that necessarily won the Super Bowl this last year. I mean, it wasn't. And so I guess my point being, like, yes, it's an effective way to get yourself in the game, but it's not the only way to get yourself in the game. So I think that the way that they kind of talk themselves into it is that there are multiple ways to do this, and look, I mean, all it takes is one injury to one of these major players and to have the Rams' depth exposed. But then again, they've done such a great job of drafting that isn't even necessarily the case. So I just think that they've walked a very narrow path, and they've come away extremely well from it. And it's hard for us to do anything more than applaud. But I also don't know that the Cowboys had the option to do what the Rams did.
Maybe not. Maybe
the
not.
way that the Rams did.
All right, let's talk about some other NFC East news, including A.J. Brown leaving the Eagles and Odell Beckham Jr. signing with the Giants. It's 2026. I can't believe we're still having this conversation, but we'll talk about that next. This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position that you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored jobs help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping that the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours have already made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Get your daily Cowboys fix completely ad-free by joining the Everydayer Club today. Start your free trial right now and get closer to your team without any of the interruptions. Click the link in the show notes or go to lockedoncowboys.supercast.com to claim your free trial. All right, Landon, let's talk about the A.J. Brown trade. This has been rumored for literally months now. It happened like an hour past the 4 p.m. window. The Eagles send A.J. Brown to the New England Patriots for a 2028 first-round pick and a 2028 fifth-round pick. We're not surprised by the compensation, but I guess my question for you is, how much is this actually going to hurt the Eagles?
I mean, I think it kind of changes things around in their offense. I don't know that, like, it's funny to me that so many people are speaking so confidently about the Eagles offense and what it's going to do when they've changed offensive coordinators. They've removed their number one passing target on an offense that was already struggling to kind of be a viable passing offense, despite having two incredible wide receivers and a very good offensive line. So I just think that this is already sunk in. It's funny that you said that rumored to be, because clearly it wasn't a rumor. Clearly it was the secret that, everyone just kind of was quietly waiting for June 1st and this trade to be finalized. And I think that means that we've all kind of ingested this a little bit. But I do think it has a major effect on an offense that we've laid it out before, right? They have holes and areas of potential regression in a couple different spots in this offense, including obviously losing Jeff Stoutland, the health of their offensive line, the Saquon Barkley being another year older, and for an offense that, despite having, like I said, two very good wide receivers, they struggled to throw the ball efficiently. And now you've taken away your kind of deep threat. And I guess in some ways he wasn't necessarily functioning in the offense at points last year anyways, but your offense was bad. So I don't really know how, like, this is a great strategy at this point. So I definitely think it's going to have an effect. And certainly that, combined with the fact that you have a new offensive coordinator, it at least spells, I would imagine, for a pretty rocky start for the Eagles early on.
Yeah, their belief is right now that they're going to try to implement more middle of the field passing. That's why they went and traded up to go get Mekhi Lemon. That's why they drafted Eli Stowers to be that kind of make plays after the catch tight end. I don't think he's going to have a big impact this year because they did bring Dallas Cowboys, but it just feels like a very weird offense in a lot of ways. Like, you got Saquon Barkley coming off a really disappointing year. No Jeff Stoutland, who is widely regarded as the best offensive line coach in the league. You brought back Lane Johnson, who is now one of the older offensive tackles in the league. I think the other part of it is they're just not as physically imposing at receiver as they were a day ago, right? Like, I love Devontae Smith, but he's 170 pounds. I love Mekhi Lemon. He's a 190-pound slot receiver. they just don't have the guy that you line up as the X receiver that's going to win against press coverage and make plays down the field. And I saw some stats from Matt Harmon today that shows that Devontae Smith really struggles against press coverage on the outside because he just doesn't have the size to be able to beat that kind of coverage. So I would not be surprised if this Eagles offense looks really clunky out of the gate.
Well, I mean, again, the thing that you've always hung your hat on with the Eagles offense is their dominant run game. You laid it out. Barkley had a rough year last year. He's another year older. No Stoutland. So, and then on top of that, by losing AJ Brown, who is your vertical threat, and he's the guy that's pushing that extra guy out of the box, right? Because you want to keep account, because if he gets down the field, that's the one thing that Jalen Hurts can do is throw a good 9 route to Brown.
Yes.
And clearly that was one of his better throwing concepts. And so now you've taken that away. If I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm just crowding the Eagles. Like, I mean, who's there? Who's going to stop me? Like you said, I'll press Smith on the outside. Who's getting down the field in time for me not to like keep that extra guy in the box to stop this run game, which, like we said, is already kind of taking a step back. Like, this feels like the house of cards, in which the card at the bottom has been pulled out and it's all kind of tilting and you can see it about to fall, but it hasn't just quite done yet. Like, this Eagles offense is going to need to go through a full transformation in order to kind of get back onto the plane that it used to be.
And I think one of the things that was really scary about this Eagles offense is you felt like you always had to play 2 safeties deep just because they had these 2 awesome receivers.
Yeah.
And again, we like Mekhi Lemon quite a bit, but he is an underneath intermediate guy. I just don't see teams playing a bunch of cover 2 against them anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if it's more cover 3 and you dare Jalen Hurts to have to throw the ball over the middle of the field. Yes, they got weapons to do that, but you're going to live with Jalen Hurts trying to throw the ball into, tight windows. I think this Eagles offense could really struggle. That could be big news for the Cowboys. We should also talk about the Giants, who signed not 1, not 2, but 3 washed up receivers on Monday. Braxton Berrios, Juju Smith-Schuster, and then Odell Beckham Jr., who has not been a relevant receiver in the NFL since 2021. I put out a list of players that have had more 100-yard games recently than Odell Beckham Jr., and it's absolutely hilarious, some of the names out there. What do you think this means for the Giants that they signed all of these receivers at one time?
Not much. I mean, I don't know how much is going to move the needle. I mean, these guys are, like you said, well past their prime. It's crazy to me how much, I mean, I guess it shouldn't be, but the amount of publicity that Odell Beckham Jr. signing got. Like, this is a guy that's like, I mean, honestly, he should be getting equal deference as Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, it's not really that different. So I think the Giants, had a pretty precarious wide receiver situation, coming out of last year with Neighbors coming off the injury or still dealing with the rehab of the injury. They obviously lost Robinson in free agency. And so now they've got guys kind of in that first wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 area, but they are just adding whatever veteran bodies they can to kind of fill out that room just to see what sticks. I don't imagine any of this is going to amount to much.
I could be completely off, but I will be shocked if Odell Beckham Jr. is on the week 1 roster.
Oh, yeah.
And if he is, I got to believe that means Malik Neighbors is not. And I think the expectation is that Malik Neighbors could be on the PUP list and miss the first 4 games. I don't know if you saw the video from him at the charity softball game on Sunday with the Giants, and he was really struggling to move. You bring in Odell Beckham Jr. because you need somebody that you feel like can run routes and can get open, because he's not going to be your 4th and 5th receiver on your depth chart because he doesn't have any special teams experience. That's the only reason you bring him in. And Juju Smith-Schuster is somebody that Matt Nagy had in Kansas City and really liked because of his ability to play in the slot, and he can block a little bit. But if you go into week 1 against the Cowboys with Juju Smith-Schuster, Odell Beckham, Darnell Mooney, Calvin Austin, like, okay, it's fine.
Yeah. It's like a collection of wide receiver 3s and 4s,
Fine.
and the reason I recognize this because the Cowboys went into a couple seasons with situations like this, but yeah, it's not necessarily very threatening.
I believe Odell Beckham Jr. has had one 100-yard receiving game since 2021. Just making sure I'm looking at the clock right. It's 2026.
Yeah, that's right.
It's legitimately been 5 years since he's been a relevant receiver. It's nonsense. I don't get why the Giants are doing this. It just feels like you're adding more unnecessary drama and noise to a team that doesn't need it right now.
I think maybe adding a distraction from the kind
Maybe.
of current infighting in the locker room is probably what they're doing.
Probably what's going on. All right, now that we've seen all these other moves that happened on June 1st, is now the time for the Cowboys to make their move. We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA Finals are here, and every possession matters. And if you're looking to get even closer to the action, FanDuel has a great offer to get you started. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right, turn $5 into $150 in bonus bets just for getting started. I like using FanDuel during the playoffs because everything I need is right there in one place. You can check stats, trends, and matchups before making your picks, which just adds a lot more excitement and it helps you feel more informed. Whether you're looking at player props or just following your favorite stars, it adds another level of excitement to every single game. And the app is really easy to navigate, and it makes playoff basketball more engaging from start to finish. And we're going to have an awesome NBA Finals on deck here starting in the next couple of days. So head over to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. Landon, now that you've seen the Rams load up a little bit, you've seen the Patriots go out and trade for A.J. Brown. Is now the right time for the Cowboys to make a move? And if so, what is still out there that they could do to improve this roster before they get to training camp?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still in on doing a Josh Sweat trade. I'm still in on doing a Jordyn Brooks trade. I think that the Cowboys have a couple of pretty clear spots where they could improve this defense to the point where not only do you feel solid about it, but you might even feel good going into the season. And as we saw, like the Rams were, I think, already Super Bowl favorites by the odds when they made this trade. So, you should be constantly, we get told all the time, player acquisition is 365 days out of the year. So, yeah. And look, again, especially if the Cowboys were in on the Myles Garrett thing, falling short of that, I think you can just easily turn around and maybe you call Oakland. I mean, Vegas. I'm sorry,
Vegas.
Yeah, I'm never going to get set.
Although I wonder with that one, like, are the medicals so far gone that you don't do it, or do you turn your attention not to edge, but maybe to linebacker like Jordyn Brooks, like you mentioned, or do you see what else? The problem is there's only a couple edges out there that are going to really make a difference. Josh Sweat is one of them. But maybe you keep your powder dry until we get to August or September and see what happens and who's out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's certainly a thought process for that, but I also think that, as soon as June 1st showed up, the Rams made a move on this. Like, so you have to be, cognizant of the fact that you can wait and I think that is a strategy to see like, hey, just to kind of prevent progress stoppers from getting in your way. But I think that there's something to the idea of striking while the iron's hot and understanding that like other teams are looking to improve their rosters as well. And if they make a move on the guys, there's only a certain amount of these situations available to you.
Yeah.
So you better get it while you can.
And I also wonder, like, it's pretty clear. I mean, let's just be honest. It's pretty clear what's happening in the NFL. There is going to be an arms race to make sure that you get a top 5 pick in this year's draft. And I think that's why the Browns wanted a first-round pick. They know it's going to be a late one from the Rams, but they just have to add more draft capital because the Jets have 3 first-round picks. The Cardinals are likely going to draft a quarterback. The Dolphins are going to be really bad. And you're going to need to be inside that top 4, top 5 if you want to get one of these quarterbacks. And I wonder if a team like Miami, do they start shipping some guys off that could maybe hurt them in terms of winning games. And a guy that I'm looking at is like Chop Robinson, the Penn State edge, who they drafted in the first round. I believe he's going into year 3 right now. Is that somebody that the Cowboys could add for 90 cents on the dollar that would give them more juice off the edge? I don't know, but I got to believe the difference is going to be either, 1 or 2 games between these teams inside the top 5. And if you're Miami, you got to make sure that you get one of those top picks.
Yeah, I mean, like I think that's an underrated aspect of the Myles Garrett trade too. Obviously, is that he's the one guy who you could potentially trade away short of a starting quarterback that could prevent you from being in range from drafting a quarterback that you want if he's good enough. So, yeah, I agree. I do think that and maybe other teams seeing the Browns do this and trade Myles Garrett, will prompt them to go, buddy, we better up our game. Otherwise, we're going to get locked out of this top 10. And again, like I also think that there's a lot of the risk is mitigated for those teams trading up or trying to accumulate picks to get up into the top 10. Because normally when you try to do this maneuver, if you miss hard. You don't get an opportunity to get the quarterback, and it's terrible. But in this class, like, it's so filled with superstars. It feels like that, like, even if you miss out on these guys, you may get a generational player at a different position and shoot for the stars and land on the moon situation.
It's like Miami, like if they get the 3rd pick in the draft. Oh no, we didn't get Arch Manning or Dante Moore. We're gonna have to take that Jeremiah Smith at number 3.
No.
But what you don't want to be is outside the top 5, because you want to be able to have either a generational skilled player or a quarterback. And that's why I would not be surprised if you start seeing some more teams selling off assets to ensure that they get one of those top picks. We'll see. All right, that is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Make sure you subscribe and follow the podcast so you get all of the latest episodes. And if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Cowboys ad-free plus members-only Discord access and so much more. Head over to lockedoncowboys.supercast.com to join the club. And for those of you on video, we can send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. And on audio, make your second listen the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. Follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.